Laser therapy is something that we use every single day in our clinic, not because it's trendy, but because it works at a very, very high level. It's one of the few tools that can directly impact how a brain can heal and how a brain can change. What it does, and an easy way to explain it, is that it helps to boost energy at a cellular level. It helps to calm inflammation in key areas of the brain. And the big thing that it does is it helps to create just optimal conditions, whether that's your brain or your body, to make significant change. So if your child stuck in a survival mode, or they're just not responding to therapy how you hope that they would, this could be something that you can possibly add to your child's care plan that can help them push through plateaus and just see overall positive gains. I'm Dr. Connor Bohr, and I work with children dealing with developmental delays and different chronic neurologic challenges. Laser therapy is part of our daily toolbox because it helps to create conditions that we need to make changes in the brain. And in this video, I'm going to break down the 6 biggest reasons why we use laser in our clinic and how it could be just a game changer for families looking for something more and looking for something that actually works. So the first reason that we use laser, and probably the most important reason, is that it helps to give more energy to our cells. Something that's very well established in the literature is something called mitochondrial dysfunction, having a correlation with just about every single chronic health illness. And we know that to be especially true within autism. There's a high level of mitochondrial dysfunction and autism. So I know just about every single child that I see has some sort of energy production issue happening within their cells. And when I talk about energy, don't think about this as running around the house energy. Think about this as fuel that the cells need to function at the highest level. So at its core, we know that laser has the potential to activate the mitochondria, and the mitochondria create something called ATP, which is the actual fuel that our cells use to be able to function. Now, how does this work? Think about it like this. The same way that solar panels on our house take in sunlight to create energy, there's different areas on the outside of our cell which take in certain wavelengths of light and is the final step of the creation of ATP. These areas of our cell essentially act as solar panels to be able to create energy for our cells, the same way that solar panels create energies for our houses. The second reason is to reduce neuroinflammation or inflammation in the body in general. Another thing that's pretty well defined in literature is that inflammation is the root cause of a lot of chronic health issues. Something that I tell parents all the time is think about planting a plant in soil that is old, soil that is not fresh. Your plant's not going to grow nearly as good compared to it being a good, fresh soil. And that's the same concept when we're trying to work on the inner environment of our body, especially from an inflammatory standpoint. If we're able to do things, and there's a lot of other stuff they can do besides laser to help decrease inflammation, but laser is a big player in this, especially if a child has trouble with certain dietary changes, with certain supplements. We know that laser can help to mitigate inflammation, thus putting it in a more advantageous environment to make therapies happen at a higher level. So third is it amplifies and enhances neuroplasticity. No matter what therapy that you do, it works by activating different regions of the brain. It doesn't matter if it's primitive reflex integration, if it's sensory activation, if it's vision therapy, all of these different things ultimately work by activating different regions of the brain. Now, what we do with the laser is we're able to put that over different regions of the brain or body that we're working on from a therapeutic standpoint to help make those therapies that much more beneficial. So here's a simple example. If we're just doing balance training, that works great. Balance primarily works on an area called the cerebellum. Now, if we do our balance training and then we put the laser over our cerebellum, we know that we're activating the cerebellum by our balance moves, but we're also bringing more energy and bringing more activation to the cerebellum. The stronger the cerebellum is, the better that our balance is going to be. So we know that stacking the laser on top of all the therapeutic applications that we're doing helps it work in a more synergistic effect, and that really is how we see some of our changes happen pretty quickly, but also happen from a long-standing standpoint. The fourth reason is that it's versatile. So there's so many applications that we could do with the laser. So from transcranial use, putting it over your head, to activating the vagus nerve to help bring you out of your fight or flight and more of a rest and digest, to putting it over tight muscles, to putting it over the stomach to help with inflammation and your whole digestive system, to doing things with immune activation. The list really goes on and on for potential applications for the laser. But to even take that one step step further, when we're doing our transcranial laser, like we alluded to earlier, we're able to put the laser over certain regions of the brain. So if somebody has issues with focus and attention, we know that that comes from the front part of our brain here. So we're able to put the laser over the front part of our brain. So the fifth reason is that it's a pretty straightforward piece of equipment for a lot of children. So what I mean by this is, so for some kids that have a very hard time with doing therapy, the laser is another alternative that you can do where a child doesn't have to be actively engaged in the therapy to have the benefits for it. So say a child doesn't want to do anything that day, or they're having a very hard time just regulating themselves. One thing that we know we can do is put the laser over a different part of the brain. Just doing this alone has the potential to have a big impact on the child's system. And the sixth reason is that it's safe, it's not invasive, and there's good research supporting it. This is something that's well tolerated by just about every single child. Of course, there's right ways to use the laser and wrong ways to use the laser, and that's why it's important to work with somebody that's read the research, that knows what they're doing, that knows the modifications they have to make from child to child. But the laser has so much research. There's 10,000 different research articles supporting the use of laser therapy. There's research out there showing the benefits of using it for different things like autism, like ADHD, like Alzheimer's, like Parkinson's, like migraines, and we have to be able to adapt a lot of this new literature and put it into clinical practice. I can't even begin to tell you how many success stories that we've had with even just using the laser. This is something that I feel so strongly about because I see how well that it works. Now, do I think if we did everything in our clinic and didn't use the laser, would we still have beneficial outcomes? I do, but I wholeheartedly believe that stacking the laser on top of everything that we're doing makes everything just so much more beneficial. And we can see changes sometimes in a visit, sometimes in a couple visits, where they've been doing therapies for years on end. And I'm not saying that what we do is necessarily better, but we're able to use these novel tools like the laser and use them at a high level that kids respond so well to. So if your child's progression seems stuck, then introducing low-level laser therapy with somebody that's qualified and knows what they're doing with it could be something that's very helpful. So subscribe to see more stuff about the laser. This is the first of many videos that we're going to talk about the laser. We're going to be giving you different things that you should know about the laser from a scientific standpoint, but also from a practicality standpoint.